old. So the first pod drops Tuesday morning. You can find it on Apple and Spotify. And again, if you want to download, subscribe, listen, share, please. We really appreciate that. So those are a couple, a few of the side projects that I got going on in addition to this wonderful thing that I'm doing with Xfinity Communities. And then I think by football season, I'm going to be right here in Detroit, and I'll have some other news to share as summer continues. So we'll get to me a little bit more later in the show. We'll do an interactive Q&A. But without further ado, I do want to bring in our first guest of the evening, and that is the one, the only, the radio voice of the Detroit Red Wings, and that is Mr. Ken Kal. I believe we have him on the line, if I'm not mistaken. There he is. Kenny, how you doing, my friend? Oh, can you unmute your microphone there?
There we go.
Bingo. There he is. What's going on, Kenny?
How you doing? I love that cup of coffee there. It's almost like Inside Hockey Town with Pat Caputo, but
check this out.
That's pretty
Waffle
nice.
House.
That's pretty nice.
It's nothing like the old Tim Hortons at Little Caesars Arena, right? I bet you're missing out on that.
Yeah, that's the coffee of choice over there. But, I kind of miss hockey like everybody does, but we got a lot of talk about today, especially about the league trying to come up with a plan, or actually coming up with a plan to get it going.
Yeah, so I want to obviously dive into that. And again, if you're, listening in, please submit questions, comments for Ken. He's got thoughts on a variety of subjects. But before we get to that, for you personally, I mean, a lot of time off, more than you expected in earlier off season. How you've been, kind of taking care of your time and keeping busy?
Well, normally when you have the off season, you're already starting to work on next year, Kyle. And, that's trying to understand, player movement. You have your draft, you have your free agency. And so it kind of keeps you busy, and you try to get ready for a development camp and a training camp as well. But now with this COVID situation, it's really hard to prepare, and you're really kind of taking it one day at a time. So, right now it's not much of anything. I know the Wings are still keeping me busy. I'm doing the, special guest every now and then on the Word on Woodward show. So that's nice. But, just trying to cope like everybody else. And like I said, I'm eager to get back into hockey, even though for the Red Wings, the season's over and it might not start until late in the year. Now,
you've spent some time on the boat, right? I hope. Come on.
Yeah, a little bit, Kyle, but the water level's so high that my dock is underwater, so it's kind of hard to get to the boat.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hopefully that changes here moving forward. It's been warm, although it's going to cool down this weekend. Enough about that. All right. A lot of things going on here. Yesterday, of course, Steve Yzerman ended up speaking, and he made the decision, or at least said, look, he's not looking to make a coaching change right now. Jeff Blashill is, as far as he's concerned, the coach moving forward. And I'll be honest, Ken, I've said this for a while. I don't know what they wanted Jeff Blashill to do. There's clearly some deficiencies within this roster. There's a lot of upgrades that need to be made. I have no issue with Blashill being the guy moving forward, especially being away from it with the shutdown and everything. What your thoughts, I guess, on how Blashill has been able to mesh with the young guys and how Yzerman's going to go about shaping this roster?
I think Jeff Blashill, along with the other coaching staff, they did a heck of a job this year with a team that was the worst in the league. And, for the most part, he got them ready to play. But obviously, there were some talent deficiencies there. And you actually, you have your guys like Mantha and Larkin and Bertuzzi, but Mantha was hurt. He only played almost a half a season, if that. And you have other injuries. And, the blue line core was decimated. Danny DeKeyser didn't play almost the whole year. And, that forced Philip Hronek to take a bigger role on the team. And he was playing at the end 25, 26 minutes a game. And you're asking a lot from him. And I think he kind of got tired out a little bit late in the season. But, on a positive note, I thought Jonathan Bernier, after he came back from injury, did a really good job. And again, the coaches will never admit to it, neither will the players. But, injuries are a big factor. The Red Wings, I think, were the top team, or one of the top teams that led in man games lost to injury. And when you're using a makeshift lineup out there, I mean, it's really difficult to compete, especially against the top league or top teams in the league. So they don't make excuses. I guess I can make excuses, but that's what I saw. But with that said, and I agree with Steve Yzerman when he talked yesterday, he was saying, hey, look, there's a lot of areas that need to be improved on this Red Wing team. It all starts in goal. It, works through the defense and up front, and, the forward position. The team had a terrible time scoring. Their power play and penalty kill wasn't very good. So there's areas that need to be improved. But with that said, you're hoping that some of the guys that you've drafted over the last couple of years can step into the lineup, add a couple of free agents, and maybe that can help your team in somewhat of a hurry. But again, as Steve Yzerman said, it's going to take some time. Fans have to have patience.
The radio voice of the Red Wings, Kenny Cal, with us here. Again, this brought to you by Xfinity Communities. And, Kenny, a lot of people have this weird, connotation of the word tanking. It gets a lot of talk around here in Detroit. And I got to be honest, the Red Wings did it in an honest way, in the sense that they were competing every single night. It's not like they were going out there and trying to lay down, or they were intentionally trying to lose. Obviously, Yzerman understands what a top draft pick could potentially be, and the Wings will have a shot at getting that, once it ultimately happens here in the next few months. But they were never trying to lose. And I think that's one thing that Yzerman is making sure he's instilling in the dressing room, since coming over here. And Blashill, of course, echoing that message. Yeah, they lost a lot, but they were trying as hard as they possibly could and trying to get it done. And that's the spirit of the game, not necessarily going out there and trying, to just lose games.
Well, the thing about professional athletes, and I know you've been around a lot of them, Kyle, and I'm on a daily basis with these Red Wing guys and guys from around the National Hockey League. No pro, and I'm telling you this right now, no pro wants to go out and lose. I mean, they compete in everything. You want to play tiddlywinks, they'll try to beat you. You want to play cards, beat you. That's their mindset. If you were a coach and you said, hey, we want a number one draft choice to just lose this game, they'll get on the coach and they'll tell him, hey, take a hike. No, they go out, they put a game plan together, and they try to win just like everybody else. And you know what? If you cross that line, that's where you have a problem. But as you said, the Red Wings did go out there. They did compete. At times they were overmatched. Other times they made some mistakes that cost them. It seemed like whenever they gave up a goal, maybe two or three followed, and they weren't involved in the game after that. But, like I said, there are some positives on this team. I'd like to see the season without getting injured, because I think he is starting to blossom as a forward. I think if he plays 82 games, he could score 40 goals or more. So, he's just one player. But again, I just think that as we move forward here, and you're going to bumps, that's what happens. And it's a cyclical league now with this, with the parity and the cap world. There are going to be times when teams that are good are going to be bad, and teams that are bad are be good. So we're at the bottom of the wheel right now, hopefully trying to make it to the top.
And obviously it's going to be a process. One of the guys that I think Yzerman and the Red Wings organization are hoping can lead that charge back, to the forefront of the NHL is Dylan Larkin. Yzerman, didn't say who the captain was going to be when he spoke yesterday, but I got to believe it seems pretty obvious. Maybe Dylan Larkin could be that guy. Do you think he proved enough, in this one season here with Steve Yzerman to be considered for that position?
Well, when Steve came in last year, I think he just wanted an opportunity to get to know all the players and see what their makeup was. And obviously this last year, he really got to know Dylan Larkin and understand him as a player. So I wasn't surprised last year that there was no captain named on the Red Wings. And again, for the fans out there, there's a lot of leadership in that locker room. It's not just the guy that wears the C. It's other guys out there too, and you lead by example. But I look at Dylan Larkin, and I think he is the leader of this team, one of the leaders, and it wouldn't surprise me if they make him captain. But I certainly believe that he's got the attitude, the desire, the will to win, and he takes losses personally, and I like seeing that in a player. Nobody likes to lose, and he takes it hard. So I think down the road you'll see him as one of the leaders on the team. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't name him captain.
One of the best things that I thought Yzerman said, well, a couple of the best things that I thought he said once he, took the job here. He obviously knows the value of the top picks. We've already talked about that. And the Wings are, hopefully they can get one of those top three picks in this, coming up NHL draft. But it was also about the process. Like Yzerman said, I'm not just going to throw money at somebody to try and expedite, this rebuild. It's got to be done right. It's got to be done in time. And there has to be a level of patience with it. And, to me, you look at the cap space that, this team and this organization is starting to have. Do you expect some significant moves, in free agency, when it comes, or do you think it'll still be a wait and see and try to develop the young guys?
Well, that's a good question. And I think there are different ways to build depending on where you're at. There are some teams, if you look at the Red Wings, maybe 10 years ago, you might want to sign a couple of free agents, give them some term, and they're going to help you win, But I think where the Red Wings are right now, they're in a full rebuild. So what they're counting on is to get as many draft picks as possible and really hope that they develop those players, and within 2 or 3 years they can come in and be really, solid NHL players. So, with that said, I just think that it's just going to take some time, and I think the fans, for the most part, I like the fan support last year at Little Caesars Arena. I mean, nobody came in with paper bags over their head because that's the worst in the league. But they understood. They understand the fact that this is not a process that's going to change overnight. It's going to take some time. But what you're going to see is each and every year, I believe from this point on, the team's going to get a little better, and a little better, and a little better. And I'll give you an example. I was at Michigan, and when I first started there, it was Red Berenson's first year. It was in 1984. The team was awful. But each and every year, he kept getting the blue chip recruits in. After 4 or 5 years, there were little improvements. Next thing you know, they're a powerhouse. That's how it all works. But you got to have patience. You got to make sure that when you're drafting players, they're going to have to hit. And, I think the way the Red Wings look at it, and they have a lot of picks coming up in this year's draft, that the more picks you have, the more kicks in the can you have, and the more chances that you're going to get players that you will be Red Wings one day.
So the NHL is going to resume here. Obviously, the Red Wings, not a part of that, but 24 teams are going to be involved in getting things underway as training camps will get going, and there's going to be a round robin essentially to be included and figure out the seeding for the top 4 teams. What are your thoughts on how the NHL is going to go about resuming this? With the 2 hub cities for each conference and everything. Do you think this is the way that they should have done it? Do you think there was a different method maybe they could have thought about?
I give the commissioner and everybody full marks because look at the problems you're having in baseball, with the players and, hockey. It just seems like the players and the board of governors and everybody else are all on the same page, and they want to get going and they want to play. So I give them a lot of credit for putting a plan in place to at least get a plan going so that as you move through the phases, you eventually could play. And again, there's a lot of ifs. I mean, the commissioner came out with the plan, but on the other hand, you have to make sure that the players are safe, that there's testing involved, that they live in a certain kind of bubble, and that they pick the right cities for the hubs that, will keep them clean, so to speak. So, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts right now in the situation, but I think if all goes well, the plan is in place, and I think it's good. I think it's great that, they added more teams, the teams that were on the bubble that probably wouldn't play because you didn't finish a regular season. And those teams could have had a chance maybe within the last 10 or 11 games of their season to move up and make the playoffs. I like it. I like the play-in games. I like the seeding among teams. So I like everything about it. The only thing I don't like a little bit is the draft. That's just, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. And I understand we're not in a perfect world. But as far as the playoffs go, I think it's going to be exciting hockey, and I think the fans are going to enjoy it, even though there won't be any fans in the stands.
Yeah, really quick, because we'll get to the draft distinction, in just a second. But the no fan thing, like the Premier League with soccer, they kind of started back up, and they're basically on the TV at least they're piping in, the crowd noise, and it sounded just like the fans were there. The way that the broadcast went about it. I don't know if that'll be how the NHL goes about it, but have you talked to players about what that might be like in that type of setting and how different it would be from a packed arena?
No, I just know that before when we left Washington, I asked a few of the guys, because that was talked about maybe down the road that maybe, teams would start playing, they would continue the season. There wouldn't be a pause, but because nobody knew anything about the virus thing, that they would have to play maybe perhaps in an empty arena. And they were saying, yeah, it's kind of weird, especially, if you're at home and there's nobody cheering for you, so it's going to be tough. But, I just think that you have to start somewhere. Nobody's been through this pandemic before, so you have to start somewhere. I think players, once the competitive juices get flowing, they won't care if there's one player or one fan or 80,000 fans in the arena. They're going to go out there and try to win and really compete hard. So, I think the fans will miss it more than anything. They want to be in there. Stanley Cup playoff hockey, as you know, Kyle, is the best There is, and it's exciting, and the fans get into it. You're playing every other day, and it's just exciting. Then the level intensifies, it goes back up. But with that said, it's a level playing field. Think about this. Like, all these guys haven't skated in 3 months. And all the guys that were injured are healthy now. And so there's no guarantee that your top seeds like Boston or the Tampa Bay Lightning or West Vegas, that they're going to come right in and just blow the doors off everybody. I mean, you play a 3 out of 5 series and you start off slow, even though you're a top seed, you're not going to make it. You're not going to win. So in that regard, and I always use the example of the power play. When you go into, you could have the best power play in the league. You go into the playoffs, and you could go 0 for 10 on your first 10 power plays. Regular season stats go out the door. It's a whole new ball game, whole new intensity. But I think the playing field is pretty level, and it wouldn't surprise me if a high seed ends up going all the way and wins a cup.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that, because in thinking about it, I'm going, well, does it benefit a younger team or an older team more? Because, you got the veterans out there, and obviously getting them healthy is great. But for an older guy, it takes a little bit more to get back into game shape and get ready to go. Whereas younger guys, maybe they can get that motor started, a little bit early. Like you said, there really is no advantage. It is just truly an even playing field. It's hard to predict any of this, but does it change who you think could get it done and hoist Lord Stanley, or too early to even talk about?
I don't know. It's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
I know, it's crazy.
I will say that the goaltender in playoff hockey is an equalizer, and we saw it here with Jaguar when they swept us, right? So like, who could ever expect that? I remember Dwayne Rollison when the Yzerman's last year when Edmonton beat us in 6 games. I mean, it's like, who would have ever noticed that? And then Edmonton goes on to the Stanley Cup final. So, anything can happen. If you get a hot goaltender, that can really shut the door on a lot of really so-called good teams out there. But to me, it's if I'm a 5th seed like Pittsburgh and I got to play Montreal, you better keep your fingers crossed, because even though it looks like a mismatch, you just never know what's going to happen. And keep in mind too, all the games are at a neutral site, so there's no home ice advantage.
Going to be wild. Either way, we need sports. I'm looking forward to NHL, NBA obviously getting back. We'll see if Major League Baseball can, handle whatever they got going on with the money issues. I guess lastly, and since you brought it up specifically, the draft pick, there seems to be some ire, some frustration there from you behind the scenes. Was there some optimism that maybe the Wings could just be gifted the number 1 pick?
Well, to be honest with you, Kyle, nothing's really changed, because the Red Wings, the worst they can go is get the 4th pick. So overall, it's like nothing really has changed from a Red Wings standpoint in that regard. I guess what bothers me a little bit is that some of the teams that actually made the playoffs, they were on the bubble, and the 8 teams that are going to at least compete, the goal is to make the playoffs. That's your consolation right there, right? Or the consolation is the draft choice. For the teams, the 7 teams that didn't make the playoffs, to me, those are the 7 teams that should be involved in the draft, and none of the other teams, because it's almost like they're getting better treatment. they're making the playoffs, which every team wanted to do, and they get an opportunity, even though it's a small percentage, of getting the number 1 pick in the draft. So that's the only thing that bothers me. But from a Red Wing fan standpoint, sure, we would like to get the number 1 pick. We would like.
We earned it. Come on.
Right. And you don't want to get punished for a bad season. It's not like the Red Wings have been bad for years. It just happened to be nothing really went their way this year. So, if you don't get that number 1 pick, it's almost like you're being punished out there. But with that said, for Red Wing fans that are watching right now, they're still going to get a really good player. And whether you pick 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, eventually down the road, that good Red Wing. And I just think the only difference is that I think if Lafreniere is selected 1st overall by whatever team, I think he's good enough right now to step into the league and play.
Awesome. All right. Well, Kenny, I really appreciate the time. We'll look forward to watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, albeit they'll look, very different this year. I'll let you get to relaxing. Appreciate you joining us. You're going to unretire your golf clubs this summer? Are we going to play or what?
I can't compete with you. You know that.
Ah,
Maybe Rieger or 50 in or somebody like that, or Dan Leach or somebody. But I can't compete with you.
either way.
I, re-
Well,
I remember I gave you those exploding golf balls a couple of years ago. I don't know if you ever used them, but oh, by the
oh
way,
yeah.
congratulations, on the birth there.
Thank you, thank you. Been an interesting week. Although she sleeps through the night, so I feel like we got the best baby of all time. I don't know how it worked out, but she's been unbelievable. So I appreciate it. We'll I owe you a couple beers. We'll get together this summer. Sounds great.
I'll take them.
All right, appreciate the time, Kenny. We'll definitely talk soon. That's Ken Cal,
Right,
the radio voice of the Detroit Red Wings. Thanks again, Kenny. We'll talk to you soon. Now, again, this of course all brought to you by Xfinity Communities, and I want to make sure that we give them some more love here as we transition to our next guest. But remember, visit xfinityxfc.com to sign up. Okay, the link is actually in the description right there on YouTube. The X1 platform from Xfinity, it really is awesome. It's all handheld. It's all right there for you. And now Xfinity X1 subscribers can access Peacock for free. Peacock is Xfinity's streaming service with access to all your favorite shows. Xfinity also provides the fastest and most reliable internet out there. Again, visit xfinityxfc.com. And I want to say, again, a personal thank you to the Xfinity Communities for allowing me to do this. This is an absolute blast. And again, we're going to get to some comments, some questions from you guys. Please keep them coming. We're also going to have a few giveaways for you guys as well. So please continue to comment questions. We'll get to some of those before this is all over. But I want to make sure we get to our next guest here before we do a Q&A for me. And we are going to welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, Terry Foster. That's right. You know him, former Detroit News columnist, the Valenti and Foster show for many, many years, having a bunch of laughs. Terry, my friend, how you doing, sir? It's been a long time.
It has been. I'm not used to all this new technology. I was fearful I was never going to get through. So here we are.
You did a hell of a job, man. You really did. It's amazing.
I got to learn.
Now let me ask you that: did the kids help you get the Zoom set up, or did you do it yourself?
Did it myself.
See, that's just unbelievable right there.
Now, my wife, they always have to help her, and they make fun of her. They stop making fun of me. So
they learned.
Yes,
well, first of all, for obviously you and I haven't had a chance to catch up in a while, and there's probably a lot of people out there that are curious to know what you're up to and how you're doing. So I guess give us an update. How you've been keeping busy, and how are things going with you?
Well, let me see. Today, I did a father-son thing. We laid the mulch down in the front yard, which I was told not to do, but I did anyway because I knew it was being delivered today. But basically, I've been.
Oh, looks like there's a little pause. Hopefully, it comes back.
Obviously, I don't go out.
There we go.
No one is right now, but I'm just waiting for all this stuff to be finished, and so I'm just kind of chilling out, trying to be low key, and I can't do too much because if I do too much, my blood pressure spikes, and I become an old man overnight and get headaches and stuff like that. But when I'm like now, I'm in great shape now.
Awesome. Good. You need to just take care of yourself. Let your son
And
handle the
during the
mulch.
pandemic,
All right?
I lost 12 pounds.
Good for you. That's amazing. I've gained about 12. So
That's what everybody tells
me. Fantastic. Well, how's the kids? Obviously are good. I know your son did he just get accepted to college, if I'm not mistaken? Or
yeah, he just got accepted to Michigan State. We thought he was going to go to Western because that was he got accepted to the mid majors, Wayne State, and we visited all the colleges. He seemed to like Western best. Even though I'm a Chippewa, I thought best fit for him wasn't the best fit for me, but it was the best fit for him. So I thought that's where he was headed. But Michigan State just accepted him a few weeks ago, and that's where he wants to go. He's a Spartan at heart.
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. Well, I'm a new dad. I don't know if you saw that. So
I saw.
I'm a week into the new job. And I'll be honest with you, and you might get mad at me because your kids might have, kept you up all night, but this baby's sleeping like 5, 6, 7 straight hours. We actually have to wake her up in the morning. That's rare, I'm assuming, right?
I'm not mad. I'm envious, but not mad. We hear stories like that sometimes. I was in charge of the 2 a.m. feeding.
Ooh.
My wife breastfed Celine, and then she would have one bottle for me, and I was supposed to do that at 2 a.m. So that was my main thing. It was rough too. Now, I did a bad dad thing. I was carrying her downstairs for her bottle, dropped the baby, and then Abs says, "Did you drop the baby?" I'm like, "No." And so she comes through, and I got Celine by her leg so she wouldn't fall all the way down the steps, and she kind of caught me. I'm like, "Oops, yeah, I did drop the baby, but it's okay."
Crisis averted.
Back smiling and having a good time, but they're very durable. Always remember that.
See, that's the thing. I'm always so careful with her, but in reality, I mean, they are tough. They really are.
Now, I'm not saying throw them against the wall or anything like this, but they're more durable than you think you are. Now, here's the advice I give new dads.
Okay.
You probably want to go and buy them the best toys, and you're researching the toys. Here's the thing my kids love the best. Get a gallon milk bottle or the milk carton, the plastic milk carton.
Yeah.
Drink the milk. Then when it's done, fill it halfway with water.
Okay.
Pour it out in front of the kids. They will play with that thing all day long.
Really?
Yeah, because it moves funny and it's squishy. And they love that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we bought
anything.
Toys. It cost $50, $60, $100 and everything. And they would just play with this stupid thing all the time.
Oh, that's great. All right, cool. Anything to keep her busy, because that's the next phase. Right now it's easy. She just sleeps, poops, eats, all that. But once she starts moving, that's what I'm worried about. I am. So that's good advice.
They do disappear.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Where's the baby? Right here? Whoops, it's not right here.
I can see that in my future as we speak. Well, I'm glad the family is doing well. I'm glad you're doing well. We might as well transition a little bit here. I know you have some thoughts specifically on this reborn Isaiah MJ rivalry. It's funny how every time somebody's in the news, whether it be Isaiah, whether it's Michael, whoever, this whole thing ends up coming back and festering. But I guess we'll start with the Jordan doc. I mean, obviously a 10-part series, quite a bit. A lot of people absolutely loved it. I thought it was tremendous. But you were around as it was happening. You saw everything go on. You were a part of the 30 for 30 on the Bad Boys. I don't know if people out there know that, but I guess what was your overall take on the doc itself?
Well, I loved it. I think it's the most significant sports documentary that's been made, and it came out at the right time. We were all watching. We had no other sports to watch, so I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But what I have learned in the process, basically, it's a Michael Jordan produced piece, seen through his eyes, and it's slanted his way, and so you have to look at it from that lens. But as far as entertainment value, it's great. One thing I noticed, Michael Jordan made 95% of his shots, and the ones that he missed, Scottie Pippen dunked in there. But I really enjoyed it. And it got me thinking about other multi-part series that you can have. I guess you're going to do Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That's a possibility. They should do that. They could probably do one on Tiger Woods, the rise and the fall and all that kind of stuff. But I thought it was spot on with Michael Jordan. He was the perfect guy to do this.
So as far as the Pistons angle of it all, I think it was the third episode, if I'm not mistaken, that they really dove into the nastiness, of those couple years where the Bulls were coming, they were charging. And I think you said it in the documentary on the Bad Boys that, the Pistons just wouldn't let the Bulls take it. Like they were making sure that they were going to keep them down one more year and get another title. I guess, what did you make of their portrayal in the documentary? Do you think Jordan gave them enough gaps, or do you think maybe a little bit more could have been given?
I think what I got from the documentaries, the Pistons are thugs and they knocked Michael Jordan on his ass. And that was basically what I got out of it. So, but, you know, lo and behold, Horace Grant used to bust Isaiah Thomas. Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman got into confrontations. It wasn't a one-way thing. You know, they're trying to, well, the Bulls weren't physical. Yes, they were. They had to be. The Bulls, the Pistons, Knicks, and Celtics, they were all thuggish. I would say the Pistons and the Knicks may have been the kings of that, but they knocked people on their asses too. And they did some nasty stuff. For instance, how we always see the aftermath of something. I'll tell you a story. Scottie Pippen found out that Dennis Rodman's wife may or may not have been messing with another teammate. So they're at the free throw line, and Scottie Pippen turns to Rodman and says, "How's the family doing?" Now that was an asshole approach. He knew what was going on, so he said that. So a few minutes later, that's when we get, I don't know if you remember this, but Dennis Rodman basically shoving Scottie Pippen into the palace. That came right after that because he was pissed. He's like, "Man, fuck, get this guy. I'm gonna bust him up." So
love it.
But stuff like that used to happen. But I think the Bulls were better than the Pistons when they finally beat them, and the Pistons got old. But they also had intel on that, and I think Joe Dumars, who was friends with Michael Jordan, told him stuff inadvertently, and they used it against the Pistons too.
Wow. See, that's interesting, you know, and that's something too. Like everyone likes to talk about the Pistons walking off, you know, in '91 when the Bulls finally swept them, and you know it was all over, you know, and all that. But Dumars obviously was a friend of Michael's. He was out there on the court shaking hands. Chuck Daly was on the court. John Sally was out there on the court, you know, shaking their hands. I always wondered that. Like, did the other guys, you know, from the Bad Boys have an issue with Joe being kind of close with Michael Jordan, or was that just, it is what it is, don't worry about it?
I think they did, but it's something they didn't talk to us about it. It may have been internal, and I think it only became an issue when Pippen found out stuff about Rodman that he didn't need to know. But for the most part, you know, Joe was just the nice, friendly guy. He had his little corner locker room and everybody liked him. He didn't say much, so I think they didn't have a problem with it. But they knew they needed Joe if they're going to win, so you're not going to rock the boat with him.
One thing I find interesting, and you know, this is I mean, a generation, you know, difference, because I'm a little younger. I'm only 30, so you know, my recollection or first recollection, my first recollection. I won't ask you your age. Don't worry about it. But I remember Rodman with the Bulls. That was the first time that I remember ever seeing or knowing anything about who Dennis Rodman was. So for me, being able to learn about the Bad Boys as I got older, it was realizing that Rodman was, I mean, he was a star with the Pistons well before he ended up resurrecting his career with the Bulls. And, you know, for me, I wonder what the other guys thought about that Rodman, after spending all those years kicking Michael Jordan's ass, like you said, and throwing him on the floor, and then he has this second, you know, dance almost with MJ and the Bulls, the guys that you know, wrecked essentially the Bad Boys. Was there any, I don't know, animosity or issue with that?
Well, I don't think so, because John Sally did it. James Edwards did it.
True.
And Dennis Rodman also did it. So I don't think they had a huge problem with it. I guess what happens between, did you respect you, but we're just going to do this by getting some of your guys over here.
Did you find the Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas portion of it acceptable, accurate, I guess? Is that, you know, the best way of asking it? What did you think of how it was all portrayed?
I think so. I think I was a little surprised. I was surprised that Jordan is still that pissed at Isaiah this many years later. Because I used to have conversations with Isaiah about Michael Jordan. He never hated the guy. He said the guy can play. We got to do what we got to do to try to beat him. But he's a rival. But I don't think Isaiah Thomas hated Michael Jordan. But as it turns out, Michael Jordan hated Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons in general. And that pretty much showed through this documentary. But, you know, I kind of understand it, because I think Michael thought, I'm the king of the league now. Bird and Magic are out the way. So why is the league still allowing these guys to throw me around like a rag doll? So maybe he wasn't always pissed at Isaiah. Maybe he was mad at the league also.
What do you make of the Dream Team snub? That's been something that Isaiah has been out there on social media very open and honest about still being upset about that. What do you think went on?
Well, here's what as we've learned, there's been some secret video of Michael Jordan, whether we have to believe it's right or not, that he said that he didn't want to play with him. But I think the main culprit is Scottie Pippen. And I know Isaiah has some problems with Jordan. He has some problems with Magic after they kissed during the finals and everything. And Isaiah always said the reason for the animosity is because I got a piece of what these guys felt they should have had all along. The way the NBA was supposed to roll, it was supposed to be the 76ers, Celtics, Lakers, and then Michael Jordan. Well, the Pistons got in the way of that. And so I think the league wasn't happy about it. Obviously, MJ wasn't happy about it. How did these slugs from Detroit get in the middle of this? And so I think there was animosity there. But I think Scottie Pippen was in Michael Jordan's ear saying, we don't like this guy. He's an asshole. I don't want to play with him. I think Pippen more than Jordan didn't want to play with him, but he was in Jordan's ear. And Mike is like, this is the best teammate I've ever had. I want to keep this guy happy, because when Scottie Pippen is not happy, he goes off the deep end. And so I think MJ was trying to keep the peace. He didn't want to play with him either, but I think Pippen was in his ear more than Michael just saying, I don't want to play with this guy.
As far as, I guess we can kind of transition here. The documentary, there's so much, we could talk all night. I'm a total geek, about it as well. But I'd be curious, Joe Dumars obviously played a massive role in the Bad Boys era. And we kind of already, touched on him a little bit. And then he stayed through the Teal years. You know all about the Teal years. And that's how bad.
I don't want to remember that.
we want to forget, but he stayed through. He stayed obviously in the organization. He constructed a championship team in 2004. Should have won in 2005 as well. I still can't believe that they freaking lost that. But the fact that Joe Dumars isn't around anymore and isn't really recognized with the Pistons right now, do you think that'll ever change? And do you think that's more the Pistons? Do you think that's more Joe feeling like he was a little disrespected toward the end?
I think it's more Joe feeling that he was disrespected, because I think Joe's mad at everybody. He's mad at the Pistons. He's mad at the media. He's a little upset with the fans, because it used to be Joe, you could get a hold of him all the time. Then all of a sudden his phone is disconnected and you can't get a hold of him. And, he's out of Detroit. You hear that he's in Louisiana, then you hear he's in Seattle, and he's everywhere except Detroit. Now, my understanding is they did do a little video a few weeks ago, and Joe was part of that. Mm-hmm. So Joe participates. So maybe it's starting to, the animosity or the feelings are starting to melt a little bit. And I definitely want to see him as part of the Pistons, because when you think of the Pistons and we think of the championship Pistons, think of Isaiah and Joe. Yeah. Two best guards in history, unless you want to throw Dave Bing in there. And look, Chauncey Billups won a title, was an MVP, but we still look at him as the number 4 guard with the Pistons. So it shows how great Joe and Isaiah were. So, but I want to see him part of the franchise.
Yeah, and I think it would have gotten interesting at least a little bit had Chauncey been able, had they closed out in 2005. Had they been able to win back-to-back, a couple of titles, maybe it would have changed everything. But you bring up Chauncey, and I kind of want to, the news recently that came out, Adrian Wojnarowski, broke it the other day that the Pistons are trying to bring another voice into the organization. They already have like 7 people that are making decisions.
Right.
And, they're trying to bring in a general manager. And of course, this is what we do here in Detroit, and with the Pistons specifically. Chauncey Billups' name, Tayshaun Prince's name, they're both in there, and local guy Shane Battier, who's been with the Heat for a while. Do you think either of those 3 would be, suitable? Do you think is there anyone else in your mind who could come in and actually maybe take control of this thing and get it right?
I have a gut feeling that guy should be Tayshaun Prince, from the standpoint that he's with the organization. He's getting experience in Memphis.
Yeah,
he's got for over the years, and supposedly, from what my understanding, I don't check in with the Grizz like I used to back in the day. When I checked in with him, they'd say Tayshaun's doing a great job. We like what he's doing. He's going to move up. So I think if that organization at some point would move him up, why not here in Detroit? I think his heart is still with the Pistons. And so if I had my vote from based on, what I know about guys and experience, I would go Tayshaun Prince. Now, I think Chauncey is the sexy pick because we all like him. If it ain't rough, it ain't right, all that kind of stuff. So and the fans feel closer to Chauncey, but I look at experience, and I look at a guy that's dabbled with two organizations. I like Tayshaun's if I had to make a choice right now.
Interesting. Obviously, the Pistons aren't going to be resuming the season. Thank goodness. Honestly, I couldn't watch any of that anymore.
My sentiments exactly. Thank goodness.
It couldn't have been better, honestly. Just be done with it, please. I can't watch this anymore.
Why would you want to see meaningless bad basketball in Orlando in the NBA gym? Why?
I know, he's so bad.
Yes,
I have no idea. I really, and honestly, I know Dame Lillard's getting a bunch of crap, on social media because he came out and said, if they're out of the playoff picture, but they need exhibition games or something, he's like, I'm not playing. I'm not going to put myself at risk. And I don't blame him. Like, if you're a star, why would you? It makes no sense.
You may as well go to the Y and play against hacks like me. You get injured.
Let's go to LA Fitness and run it back.
But let me say this. I'm with Damian Lillard on this thing. His team is with, I forget the other two, but they're almost in the playoffs hunt. I like the fact that have the 3 teams out of the playoffs and the number 16 seed right now have the best 2 out of 3 series. Whoever wins that gets the number 16. They're not going to win the title anyway, but you're in the playoffs. So let's have a little fun. I like playoff everything. Let's have a 2 out of 3 series, see who's the best team.
What do you think it's going to be like? I appreciate you, staying with us for so long. I don't want to keep you here all night, but I can talk about basketball for hours. So,
all right, let's go to midnight.
yeah, let's do it. All right, let's get some calls in here. It'll be like old time.
Right, I know.
No, but as far as no fans in the arena, what do you think that's going to be like from a viewing perspective on TV?
What it's going to be like? It's going to be like the summer league. I don't like it. And here's the thing I don't get is you play all these games for home court advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's not going to be there unless you're just going to call one team home and the other visitors, something like this. But here's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear a bunch of squeaky sneakers, and you're going to hear dudes huffing and puffing, going up and down the court. There's going to be a bunch of dudes out of shape. They're going to have guts and trying to play. And so I don't look forward to that part. But the thing I do like is there's going to be a champion. And, we could see something stupid happen like Brooklyn winning the whole damn thing because they come back in shape and decide we really want this. So I think it's going to be the winner is going to have a leader that says, fellas, we're coming in shape. And he's probably already talked to them and said, don't come in here fat with guts. Stop drinking the beer. Let's not bullshit around. Let's try to win this thing. And I think that leader has already reached his team. If he hasn't, he's in trouble.
How tainted do you think this title will be? The asterisk, like the NBA shortened season in '99 that the Spurs took. Do you think it'll be basically the same thing?
They're still champions, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's going to be, I think it's going to be the young guys like you, not you in particular, but they're going to say, this is tainted, this is not right. But to me, you already played a regular season, you already have a seeding, and if you've already had shortened seasons and you've crowned champions, this is just another one of those times.
You know what I can see happening? It'll only be an asterisk of a championship if LeBron wins it, right?
Right.
yeah, but you know what? You guys had months off. You know, it doesn't even count.
But you know what? That asterisk is just going to be in people's minds. It won't be in my mind. I'm going to throw the asterisk out.
For sure, no doubt. Terry, we got a bunch of questions here for you. Do you want to get to a few of these? Is that all right?
I do. Please. That sounds
all right.
great.
Cool. Let's get to a few of these. Then this one from Aaron Best. Terry, do you see the playoff seedings working going forward after this year? I'm assuming as far as maybe mixing the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference and not having it split because of the competitive, balance issue.
Yeah. No. You know why? Because the league is cheap. They don't want to go from New York to LA unless it's the NBA Finals. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. This is the only time it's going to happen because they're going to be in one location, and I think that's the only reason they're willing to do that. But other than that, no. They always bitch about travel and it's too far, and we got to do Detroit and Milwaukee. We have to do Philly and New York, and then in the NBA Finals, it doesn't matter. So I don't think we're ever going to see that.
We got another one alluding to the NBA's plans, moving forward. And this is something I've actually talked about, and I think this would be genius. But do you think that the NBA should start its season in December moving forward? Like they should start it now and do it Christmas Day, 5 straight games, massive showcase, and then not compete with the NFL except for that first month in January. And then you have the summer to yourself, essentially.
Thumbs up, because we used to joke that the NBA season doesn't begin until Christmas Day anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, why not actually do that? So I'm a proponent of that. Have a big old kickoff, and you know what? Maybe the NHL should do that for New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. Have a bunch of outdoor hockey games, and that's how you kick off the NHL season. It doesn't need to begin in October or whenever it does. So I'm all in favor of later starts. Let the NFL. Plus, you know what? In October and November, we don't care about anything but the NFL.
I know.
You can go to hell with the rest of it. We're just focusing on those football games and college.
It's crazy.
Football. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. And obviously, I think football season is going to be fine. I don't think there's any way in hell that this country is not going to allow college football or the NFL, to move forward in some capacity, even if stadiums have to be limited, to fans.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about college football because they need that revenue. They need that fan revenue. NFL doesn't need it. The NFL is the gorilla of sports. We'll do what we want, how we want, when we want, and everybody gets out the way. So that's how powerful the NFL is. So they will, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. The NFL is playing before packed stands and just saying the hell with social distancing. We're going to do what we want to do. And the president and the governors, okay, right, you're the ones. So we do that. With college football, I'm still worried about that because they need those ticket sales so much.
They really do. Not just for football and basketball, but to support obviously all the other sports. And we're already seeing it. Central, I believe, cut their track and field program. Right. We're going to see a lot more of that, unfortunately, moving forward. But Terry, I think we could sit here all night. Honestly, we could. I don't want to keep you any longer, but it's great to see you. It's great to talk to you. I know a lot of people, obviously happy to see you're doing well and the family's good and all that. So maybe if this went well, I think if Xfinity's pleased, I'd love to do some more of these moving forward. So maybe we can get you on a little bit more regularly.
All right, that sounds good. I'd be more than happy to do that. And let me just tell everybody this: when I was trying to make my comeback to radio, which I probably shouldn't have because I was still kind of sick, the guy that prepped me and tried to help me was Kyle Bogey.
That's true, man. We were in that side studio just grinding away, talking to nobody.
Talking to nobody and saying stupid stuff. But that's okay. Nobody knows.
I wish we still had the tapes of those shows, those fake shows that we did, man. Yeah, listening back, we'd probably cringe.
Yeah, we probably would. Now, I do want to make fun of one of my pals, Rob Parker.
Yeah.
He's claiming he broke the Calvin Johnson story. Give me a break. I can't get credit for anything in life.
I see. Now, what really happened there? Really?
I think what happened was Rob was, just on a rant, and he said that don't be surprised if Calvin Johnson doesn't come back. He had no information. He's just talking out of his ass. So he said something. I actually did reporting, talked to people who knew Calvin and said, this guy's not coming back. And, and when you write a story like that, for the first few days, you're like nervous because, the Lions are calling you and saying, what is this shit? What are you doing?
Of course.
And
yeah.
Get a little bit nervous. And then he's like, okay, now he's got to retire just to make me look good. So that's probably what happened. But here's the thing Rob didn't tell you. Back in the day, you ever hear of a guy named Paul Davis?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Rob said for 3 straight years, Paul Davis was leaving Michigan State to go to the NBA.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Stay.
He was right. He left after his senior year when his eligibility was up, and then he tried to turn pro.
Hey, he nailed it. It just took 4 years.
He doesn't say that. Here's another thing he doesn't say. When Rob, with Rod Marinelli saying, "Don't you wish your son and your daughter had married a better defensive coordinator?"
Oh yeah.
This fool, he told me what he was going to say beforehand. I said, Rob, don't do it. It's unprofessional. You might lose your job. You're going to get in all kinds of trouble. And you know what he said? Yeah, you're probably right. So I'm thinking, okay, this fool,
he's good.
Listen to me, and he's not going to do it. And then I see Wojo. He said, oh, do you know what your boy Rob just did? And I'm like, I know he didn't. He said, he asked the question. I'm like, hey, I tried to stop it.
Oh, no.
So he didn't tell you that, did he?
No, I don't remember that. Nope.
Right.
But a moment that will live in infamy, obviously, with Detroit media exchanges and the Lions. So who knows? Terry, I'll tell you this before we let you go. I have a very sneaking suspicion here, and I'm not reporting anything or breaking anything. I mean, you're the king of that. I'm not going to compete with you on that.
I used to be.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. But you still,
right.
It's okay. We'll keep that distinction with you. I think Matthew Stafford is done after this year. I think he might not retire. I think he's going to be traded after this upcoming season. I really think that there's something going on behind the scenes with everything that went on. It can't go now because of the cap hit, but I swear I feel like he's ready to move on and go somewhere else.
You might be right. His wife is ready to move on.
Hell yeah.
And you see little signs. His house here is for sale. And you look at his house, it's like the best looking house I've seen in a long time. They bought something in LA. And here's what an athlete would tell you right up until the time he's traded. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be traded. Love Detroit. I love the Lions. Think about this. Does he really love the Lions? What have the Lions done for him? If this man, if Matthew Stafford played for any other team in that division, he'd have multiple playoff victories. But because he played for the Lions, he's got 0. So I'm with you. I can see him leaving. Absolutely.
Wouldn't shock me whatsoever. It's funny too, and you dealt with this over the years, the amount of people that will continue to believe a guy that says, oh, I'm not going anywhere. I love it here. They take those comments to heart, and it's like, they will tell you that until literally the second they are on a plane to get the hell out of town.
It's like when people, they still want to believe in Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
And well, the players here stand by him. I said,
come on.
When was the last time a player was not going to be traded, ripped his head coach in any sport?
Yeah.
When was the last time that happened? That's very.
The most
be sinking before that to happen.
See, and the most that we saw it was last year with Darius Slay just openly being like, "Come on, man."
Yeah,
he was just done.
Yeah, he's like, man, but he's being honest.
Yes,
but he got ripped for that. But but everybody else is like, but you have to really read the comments. Nobody, not Stafford, not anyone, they've all defended Patricia, but none of them have ripped Darius Slay. None of them said what he said was incorrect.
Uh-huh.
They'll only say that, well, I see it a different way or something like that. They knew that Darius was speaking for the room. That's what I believe. He wasn't just speaking for himself.
Totally agree.
Had side huddles, and I'm sure other players have said that, but he was in the position because he was a Pro Bowler multi times. He knew he could get out of here. He had the respect for them. He could say that.
Money-wise, he was taken care of. It's not like it's going to hurt his pocketbook,
So he could say that. There's a whole bunch of guys making, $400,000 or $500,000 or $2 million, and and they're in a league where they can get rid of you in 15 minutes. Yep. They're not saying anything. Yep. So I'm going to go with I'm on team Darius on this one.
I'm right there with you. Looking forward to another 6-10 Lions season. Should be fun.
9-7 is not good enough, brother.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right, Terry Foster, the legend himself. T. Foss, appreciate it. We'll definitely we'll talk soon. We got to get a beer this summer and catch up, my friend.
Okay, and we're not going to wear masks when we get those beers now.
Perfect. That'd be kind of tough to drink. I don't know. All right. All right, Terry. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it again, man. Have a good night.
It's been a pleasure. Right. Take it easy. Good luck.
Terry Foster. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Well, that was fantastic. God, we could have done that, I think, for another couple of hours. In all honesty, that was simply fantastic. So I want to at least open it up for Q&A for me. If you guys have any, questions or things that you want to get off your chest, or, kind of figure out what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what my plans are, what ultimately transpired, please, now is the time. And I can get to a few of those right here. This one from Omar's daddy. Come on, Bogey. Let's see those locks here. I'll give you it's hat hair now, so it's kind of matted down, but yeah, I wasn't going to try and figure that out for you guys and get my hair going. I desperately need a haircut. Like, we have reached the level of there's nothing I can do with this to make it look good. I can actually, I don't know if you guys watch the show Mad Men. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. I can do the Don Draper part, but it's not a great look. It's not the 60s. Okay, it's 2020. Appreciate that comment. By the way, Omar's daddy, if you want to email Charles_Rose@Comcast.net, you can go ahead and receive one of the Xfinity giveaways that we got as a part of the podcast. Again, that is Charles_Rose@Comcast.com. Excuse me. I want to make sure that I get that right. But Omar's daddy, I appreciate the comment. We'll get to a few more. This one from Danny Martin. Bogey, miss you on the radio. Appreciate that. And I'll say this. You'll hear from me soon, and not just in this capacity. Xfinity Communities is allowing me an opportunity to talk directly with you guys and kind of get back into this. And I very much appreciate that. But, we'll obviously be doing a little bit more moving forward. So stay tuned as far as what else I could be doing. Let's see here. Another question. Bogey, what's the recent break from sports allowed you to realize about yourself or your lifestyle? Any words of wisdom to pass along to others going through career changes? Yeah. And I mean, for me, stepping away from sports just because we had no choice, it opens you up to realizing how much time you spend on sports, whether it's watching, whether it's reading, being on Twitter and, watching a live event, whatever it might be, sports betting, which is always a good time for me. It kind of allows you to focus on, hanging out with your family and, finding other things to do and other things to watch. So, that has been eye-opening for me, just how, it's a career for me, obviously. So I have to be dialed in, college football and the NFL season, Saturday and Sundays, it's 12 hours, both days on the couch, locked in, watching as much football as humanly possible. So being able to kind of take a step back from that and focus on being a dad here, that's been nice. And look, if you're, I don't know, in a position where you feel like you're not, valued, or you feel like you're not getting your due, or, you want more of an opportunity or more responsibility, I would just say bet on yourself. For me, one of the best decisions, and best things that ever happened to me was not signing a bad deal, and it's okay. There's no animosity. It is what it is. I would have been incredibly unhappy, and it would have festered, and it would have affected my personal life. And, since I walked away and we've separated, I've had a ton of opportunities come my way, and I've noticed a difference in my own, happiness and my day to day and waking up and trying to take care of things. And it's amazing, how many opportunities are out there and how many people, really do want to work with you and come up with different projects and things you can attach your name to, just like this Xfinity Communities, YouTube Live. I mean, this is, something different, something new, and something I hope that we can do moving forward. So again, I would just say, know your value, know your worth, and bet on yourself, and know that if you're talented and you have, great skill set, you're going to be able to get outside of, a job maybe that you don't like, or a job that you don't think is prioritizing you or stressing you out. You can go somewhere else and thrive. And that's really, what I feel like I've been able to do here, the last couple of months. And it's just the beginning, because I think, by football season, we're going to have even more to talk about, moving forward. So that'll be very, very exciting. Let's see if we have Bogey. Have you also had a bladder repair like your recent eye repair? I've never seen a man with such a large bladder. Yeah. So I came prepared for this. I'm sitting in the guest room at my house. So I had a little coffee with the Waffle House. You got to have some coffee. I don't care how late it is. I got one Yeti. And then I got another Yeti, all with water, because the amount of talking that you end up doing in like an hour, your throat is going to end up drying out. So you got to take care of that. No doubt. And actually I'm doing solid, so it's not too bad. Another one from Brandon Combs. Do you get up with your significant other to feed the baby, or do you take turns? It really is taking turns. Honestly, the baby doesn't wake up in the middle of the night. She sleeps through the night. So that's been awesome. But it's kind of been like, okay, you're going to be the one that stays up late with her and make sure that she's fed before she goes to sleep tonight. And then tomorrow night, you're going to do it. So we've kind of been swapping, on and off, taking care of those responsibilities. By the way, Brandon, who just asked that question, Brandon Combs, if you want to email charles_rose@comcast.com to get information on how you can get, one of these giveaways, we want to make sure we hook you up with something from Xfinity. So we really appreciate that. And I think that'll just about do it. I mean, we have gone quite a ways, here on this, and I appreciate Ken Cal and Terry Foster joining me. I've known those guys for, a long period of time. It's good to talk sports again. Honestly, I can't wait to kind of get back in the swing of things. It's never going to be my entire career anymore. I'm not solely dependent on sports and on radio. I got other things that I have going on, but I do miss it. And I miss talking to you guys and seeing you guys, and the banter and the interaction is absolutely awesome. So I want to thank all of you. Hopefully we can do this a little bit more moving forward. I also want to make sure that I thank Xfinity, again, and once again, a big, massive thank you to the Xfinity Communities. Speaking with the folks, that visit your properties each day, I can tell you how much they really do care about not just, managing you guys and your properties and the staff, but, the residents and, the customer experience that you can have with Xfinity. It means a lot, and they go above and beyond to make sure that it is taken care of for you. So I can't, think of another company that's made, such a great effort to change their approach to customer experience. So once again, thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you to Xfinity Communities. And thank you, to all you guys for participating. Again, if this went well, maybe we can do, some of this a little bit more moving forward. And this would be a great way to go about doing it. So again, thank you. Good to talk to you guys. We'll definitely be talking with you soon here in the near future, but I appreciate it. And again, all of this brought to you by the Xfinity Community. So I'm going to get back to being a dad. I got to take the dog for a walk as well, and look forward to talking with you guys soon. Appreciate it.